Hi guys, thank you so much for clicking on my YouTube channel. If you're a returning subscriber, I genuinely appreciate you. If you have not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I'll make it worth your while. You're not going to regret. Thank you so much for giving me your time. And today we're going to have a bit of a conversation about something that I have noticed. Over time, I have noticed that we have really normalized this thing in the society, and I feel like it's not something that's supposed to be normalized. It's not something that we're supposed to glorify. It's not something that we're supposed to coexist with. So I decided, let me just bring it up so that we have this conversation, and I hope you're going to learn a thing or two. So today we're going to talk about toxic relationships. We're just going to like talk about the in-depths of toxic relationships. For one, we're going to start with what is it about toxic relationships that makes it so hard for the victim to leave the abuser? What is it about toxic relationships that makes people think that it's cute, or makes people think that it's normal, or makes people think like that is how it's supposed to be? So I compiled a small list. I educated myself like I always do. I did a deep dive on this topic. So I have my notebook here. I scribbled down a few notes so that I don't speak out of, like, I don't talk about something that is not factual. So let's get right into it, and let's start with a few causes of a few reasons why it's usually hard for a victim of a relationship abuse to leave the abuser. Mind you, I want to make it very clear that abuse is not only physical, because people usually speak as if abuse is only physical. Just because he does not hit you, just because she does not hit you, just because he or she does not beat you up, does not mean that the person is not abusive. Second point that I want to make: abuse is not only on women. Men also experience a lot of abuse, and it's usually stigmatized. For a man to come out and say that my woman, my wife, or my girlfriend is abusive, people make jokes about it. People think that it's funny, but it's not. So let's make it clear that this it's not it's all inclusive. Let's make it clear that this is not only about women going through abuse. It's both the men and the women. So we're going to speak about a few reasons why someone may find it difficult, a victim may find it difficult to leave their abuser. Because many a times we usually like, it can never be me, I would never tolerate such kind of thing from anyone. But leaving an abuser is not as easy as people make it seem. It's not as black and white as you may think. So there are a few reasons that may make someone to stick around in an abusive relationship. The first thing that I wrote down is childhood trauma. This one is quite unfortunate because when you're raising a child in an abusive environment, for example, you're a woman and your husband hates you, or you're a man and your wife hates you. If you're raising children in that environment, the kids will grow up thinking that that is normal. The kids will grow up thinking that abuse and love come as a package. So the only thing they're familiar with is that someone that loves you will correct you, and someone that corrects you loves you. So they will correct you by hitting you, by verbally abusing you, or just being abusive in general. So if you're raising a child in that environment, just keep in mind that you're raising a child that is either going to be abusive or is going to be receptive to abuse, thinking that that is love. So childhood trauma tends to wire someone in a way that makes them think that there's nothing wrong with your partner putting their hands on you, or there's nothing wrong with your partner being verbally abusive, because you grew up seeing your parents taking that, you grew up seeing that happening in your household. So you're going to end up thinking that that is normal. And if you have grown up in an environment that you experienced violence of any kind, I feel like the best thing for you is to go for therapy for the sake of your kids. Bringing up kids in a healthy environment, it's best that you consider therapy. So that's the first reason why someone may stick around in a toxic relationship, because they do not know anything else. That is what they are used to. That is what they think is normal. The second thing that makes someone to stick around is low self-esteem. You see, one weapon that narcissistic and abusive human beings use, the first thing they're going to do is to tear you down to your lowest self. Controlling someone who has low self esteem is very, very easy. It takes zero effort to control someone that has low self esteem, someone that does not think highly of themselves. So, someone that has low self esteem is going to feel unworthy of a healthy love. So they're going to take whatever it is that comes because they don't think that they are worthy. They don't think that they can find anything better out there. So they're just going to sit there and take whichever whatever it is that they're getting from this particular person, maybe a man or a woman. Like I've mentioned before, it's not only women that go through abuse in relationships. Please keep that in mind. The other thing is codependence. If you are entirely dependent on your partner emotionally, like you cannot make decisions without, like, okay, I'm not saying that it's wrong to ask for, what do you think about this? This is what I want to do. What do you think? That is not wrong. But if you're someone that cannot think for yourself, you're someone that cannot feel anything for yourself, like you entirely depend on your partner, that one may make you to tolerate or take whatever it is that they bring to you, whatever it is that they put you through, because you are not your own person. You don't have an independent mind. And I'm not speaking about financially in this particular point. That is something I'm going to speak about later. But for this particular point, I'm speaking about emotional codependence. An emotionally codependent person can be very draining because, for one, they do not want you to have any, since they don't have a life of their own, they don't want you to have a life of your own, because everything about their lives revolve around you and what you think and what you approve. So it can be quite draining to be with someone like that. So if someone is codependent, they will take whatever it is you bring to them, as long as you stick around, as long as you are there. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. The other thing is lack of knowledge and awareness. Believe it or not, there are people that are experiencing extreme levels of abuse, but they do not know that they're experiencing abuse. Like I've mentioned before, just because someone does not put their hands on you, just because someone does not hit you, does not mean they're not abusive. There is spiritual abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, and psychological abuse. All these things are as bad as someone hitting you. So just because someone does not hit you does not mean they're not abusive. And all these other things that I've mentioned are as detrimental as physical abuse. So someone can stay in a relationship for a very long time, and then one day when people are, maybe you don't know, you have no idea, you've never heard of emotional abuse, you've never heard of financial abuse, you've never heard of all these things. So after some time, when now you are a bit more knowledgeable, that's when you realize, by the way, this person was quite abusive. Whatever it is I was doing, whatever it is I was taking, whatever it is I was dealing with, that is abuse. So that is another thing. So that's why it's important for us to raise awareness. It's important for us to have these conversations, and I'm glad that they need these generations, we are free to talk about these kinds of things, because a lot of our, like, grandmas, granddads, a lot of our, like, grandparents, their relationships were not stable, their relationships were not healthy, but they had no idea that that was abuse. So I'm happy that these days we've normalized having open conversations about all these types of abuse. I'm happy that we are raising awareness. I'm happy that we are talking about all these kinds of things without shame publicly. So the other thing is power dynamics. Most unhealthy relationships are characterized by an uneven power dynamics. Let me explain it in this sense. One person, mostly the abuser, not even mostly, all the time, the abuser of the relationship is going to have more power in the relationship in one way or another. There are a few factors that may lead someone to that position. For example, if you are financially unstable, you don't go to work, you depend entirely on your partner to provide for you, that means they have more power in the relationship. Everything that they say in the relationship goes. If maybe you are unwell, you are not able to function on your own, like you're sick, maybe you're terminally ill, or you're just unwell, so you're not able to stand on your own 2 feet. That is also something that can cause uneven power dynamics in a relationship. Another factor is if you don't have like a stable cushion to fall back on, in the sense of you don't have a supportive family, you don't have a strong support system, like socially, you don't have friends, you don't have anywhere to run to. And the person that is in a relationship with you, they know that this person will take whatever it is I put them through, because they literally can go nowhere. I've had people talking about these kinds of things. I've had people saying, actually, this person used to tell me every time that you will take whatever it is I bring, because you cannot go anywhere. You don't have a family, you don't have parents, you don't have friends. So that kind of brings some sort of an even power dynamic because you are entirely dependent on them. So power dynamics and even power dynamic in a relationship can really cause someone to sit there and take whatever it is that comes from this person, whatever sort of abuse that comes from this person. Let me refer to my notes just in case I've forgotten something. Another thing that can cause that kind of uneven power dynamic is having kids with that person or being pregnant with that person, all these other things. So that is another point that I wanted to talk about. Something else that I feel like could cause, not that I feel, it's factual, something else that can cause. So another thing, let's talk about trauma bond. Trauma bond happens when someone forms a deep emotional connection with someone that causes them harm, someone that causes them pain. So you tend to feel either sympathy that manifests itself in form of love. I'm trying to make that very simple. I'm trying to simplify it so that it makes sense. For example, someone is an abusive person to you. Someone is not good to you. Like someone is not the right person for you. But once in a while, they shower you with gifts. Once in a while, they take you out. Once in a while, they do nice things to you. So, like, there's some sort of 80-20%, 80-20, 80-20. 80% of the time, he's an asshole. 80% of the time, she's a terrible person. And then 20% of the time, they are nice. They try to compensate for the other times that they are bad. It leaves you in a very confused state of mind because you do not know what you're dealing with. Usually, trauma bond happens when the person knows how to balance between the good and the bad. So they put you in a loop where you take both the good and the bad, and before you know it, it's actually the bad outweighs the good. So trauma bond happens when you develop a very strong emotional attachment with someone that is toxic, someone that causes you so much harm, someone that causes you so much pain. When you're speaking about kids usually when they grow up, they have full trust on their parents or their caregivers. That is what happens. But if the parent or the caregiver is abusive from the jump start, the kid will think that abuse and love come hand to hand. They come together. So the child will grow up thinking that that is normal, that that is okay. So the child will not be able to term this abusive parent or abusive caregiver as an evil person or as a bad person. So I think that is essentially what trauma bond looks like. Stockholm syndrome is also some form of as a form of trauma bond. Stockholm syndrome is the situation whereby an abuser, a victim of abuse, develops sympathy for the abuser, and that sympathy sometimes makes the victim think that it is love. You kind of start to think maybe he has all the reasons to behave like this. Maybe he has all the reasons to be the way he is. Maybe if I stop doing this, maybe if I change my ways, this will not happen. Like you now start to try to see things from that other person's perspective, and yet you are the victim. You are the victim of abuse. That is what Stockholm syndrome looks like, and Stockholm syndrome is a form of trauma bond. Sorry, those are a few things that may make a victim of abuse to stick around in a very abusive situation. So before you judge someone or before you talk a lot about this, just know that it goes deeper than that. It's not a black and white situation. Why can't he or she just leave? Why are they still there? It's not as black and white as that. It takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of emotional detachment for a victim of abuse to just get up and leave. And trust me, when that happens, no amount of words, no amount of begging, no amount of what will ever make that person go back. So the second part of my video, I'm going to speak about a few ways that you can actually decide, no, this one, no, I've had enough. So now that we know about some factors that can cause a victim of abuse to stick around in that situation, let's talk about a few things. Just a few points a few ways that you can actually up and live for God. The first one, that it is a hill I'm willing to die on. There is no way at all that you can work through leaving someone who is abusive and still continue to communicate with the person. So the first thing that you're going to do The first thing that you can do to leave a toxic relationship behind, the no contact rule. That one never fails. It never fails. Just block the person everywhere and do not communicate with this person, regardless of what. Just go no contact. Trust me, within a few months, I'm not going to say within no time because healing takes time. Within a few months, you're going to slowly by slowly, you're going to develop a habit of living without them. Because it takes 21 days to make a habit. It takes 21, if you do something repeatedly for 21 days, it becomes a habit. So once something becomes a habit, you can now you can now you can now have a life without this situation or without this person that you thought your life would be completely doomed without them. So the first thing you have to do, please go no contact. Regardless of what you see around, oh, can exes be friends? Oh, we still have a deep connection. He's still, no, please leave the ex behind. Stop communicating with the person completely. Stop stalking the person on social media. Do not stalk the person on social media, no matter how tempting it is. It can be very tempting. It can be tempting as hell. I know that. I know firsthand. I know. But you cannot keep playing with a wound and you expect it to heal. So going back and forth on that person's social media, that's essentially what you're doing. You're playing with a wound and you're expecting it to heal. So the first thing is go no contact. The second thing, please do not stalk this person on social media. The third thing, and I know that I don't want to seem as if I'm speaking from a point of privilege or anything, but just try to have a strong support system, whatever it is that may be, whether it's your friends or your family. It's not like, I know everyone does not have the luxury of having friends or having supportive family, supportive parents, or all that, but having a strong support system, it's going to be some sort of cushion for you to fall back on. I'm trying to go back to my notes just in case I've forgotten something. The other thing is, please, I don't even know why I did not start with this. I need you to acknowledge that it was not your fault. Normally, abusers make you think that it's your fault that they acted like that, or it's your fault that all these things happened. If you carry that burden on your head, you're going to keep having this thought of, maybe I should go back and not do this. Maybe this person is not going to behave like this. Maybe this person is going to change. Maybe this person is going to treat me better if I don't do the things that he or she was complaining to me about. It does not work like that. It is not your fault. Whatever it is that you went through in the hands of an abuser, it was not your fault. Please don't carry the burden of, I'm the one that caused all this, I'm the one that brought this upon myself. First, you have to acknowledge that it was not your fault and forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for all the time that you allowed someone to treat you like that. Forgive yourself for all the things that you tolerated. It was not your fault. I am sorry that you went through that, but it was not your fault. Just forgive yourself, because what not forgiving yourself will do to you, you're going to have a very strong sense of resentment to self. You're going to resent yourself so much, and that will cause you to have, you're going to, healing takes a lot of, it takes a lot of self-compassion. If you do not have compassion for yourself, there's no way you're going to heal. You have to hold yourself, you have to embrace yourself, forgive yourself. That is when the real healing, that is when true healing starts. Because healing comes from a point of love. If you do not love yourself, if you've not forgiven yourself with so much love, there is no way your healing process is going to begin. And this whole thing is going to be useless because you're going to end up going back to whatever it is that broke you. So I hope all that makes sense. I hope it resonates with you. And if you have anything else to add, please feel free to drop your comment. Feel free to give me a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, I have no idea what you're waiting for. And if you can resonate with this situation, I am genuinely sorry, because it's not a walk in the park, and I hope and wish healing on every single one of you. And I'll see you on my next one. Bye.